everybody. Happy Tuesday. Session number 12. Trying to keep it up. Trying to fight it. So we went through the angulation techniques yesterday and a bunch of stuff. So today is kind of meat of the week. More of the flowy exercises. Warmed up. And some exercises on just because bigger muscles and stuff. And try to never forget to, when you're doing the rotations and all these warm-ups, right, just for your joints, try to exercise joints in different planes, together this way, different way, this, different like this. It helps to make your what's the word, joint bag, whatever they call it. So basically that whole tissue that surrounds the joint, right, becomes more elastic. If you do it in just single directions all the time, it becomes loses stretching in that direction, and that's how you start to lose the corporal tunnel and all this other nasty things. So the usual, well, for this week it's 25, so that's where the difference comes through the strokes slightly between the katana and this type of swords. The guard versus Suba. The guards stick out a bit too much. So if you're not careful, you will hit yourself on the head quite a bit. Just be mindful. Like that. So, all right. So, as always, warming up arms, get the strength exercises with arms. Never stop doing those, because if you do, you're starting to kind of get yourself and you lose goosey, right? Today I will do strikes, today I will not do strikes. If you always force yourself to do this, it just constantly drains. Yes, sometimes you'll have hurting muscles, but fight for it if you can. Legs. Again, joints in the same direction, in opposite directions. Always good. The more flexible you are, longer you will live. At least that's the theory. Just always, and it also helps you if you do this before going full Monty exercises. It helps you to listen to your body and realize the limitations. You know, if right now I feel a little bit of pain in this leg, I know that even though I'm warmed up, I probably will not push as much. Or if I know that I could not bend this way, I'll make sure that I just adjust it a little bit. So always listen to your body. The body actually always talks to you. Just always helps. So to do the flow ones, I generally start like I showed already. Just one arm out and just doing the rounds. You know, the full swing cuts always helpful to start. Just gives you the idea of the range. And if you feel like working on the planes for the single arm, you can always do that as well. The idea, if you do this, is the full swing. So if you ever get the metal sword or the sable, or even with this guys, I don't have, unfortunately, near me anything, but at some moment, you know, when everything is done and so you'll want to try this just for the fun. Put the stick in the ground, stick a hat or a box in it, and if you do fast cuts on the right angle, even these guys will cut through the regular size sticks. Not if it's dried bamboo, but the idea is that if you do this, the stick will collapse and the hat of the box just keeps going down, and I'll show it next time, probably, just for fun. And this is good fun exercise just to get yourself in a habit of delivering full strikes. They are a little bit uncontrollable, but it gives you an idea of how much damage you can get through and deliver. There's one hand or another, doesn't really matter. Just be mindful. If one of your hands have less control, and generally for most people that's true, be mindful when you're doing the full swings with the weaker hand to not kind of let it go and hit something. Well, in this case it was alright. So now that we're a little bit relaxed, so back to the whole, find the center of your bokken. And typically it's easier, right? You just kind of slide through, you find the balance, and it's almost always over here. somewhere in the first third. For the European blades, sometimes it's different, but most of the time it actually is roughly similar to the so. And yes, this is not, you know, carbon steel, but it's made by nice folk in the Houston Armory. It's actually quite accurate in the weight distribution and the dangerousness and stuff. Anyway, so you find the center, right? Try to force yourself in doing those. So these are blocks. And what you're trying to do, you're trying to rotate around the center weight. If you do it, you'll notice that the blade kind of rotates around you and protects the side from the cut on this side, right? And it's far less time consuming and effort consuming than doing this. And you can do it with the two-handers as well. It's just a bit more, you need to relax your hands a little bit more so you can feel the difference. You can feel where the blade kind of goes. Right? I'm not putting any effort at all to angle it a certain way. I'm just moving my hands and blade essentially trying to move around its own center weight, except in the case of two-handers, because of the way how you hold the sword, right? You can notice that it's starting to, the center of the rotation shifts a little bit here. There's nothing wrong with that. That's actually how it should be. And it's always helpful to just kind of go through the bunch of movements in different directions and a few steps back and forth, so you can feel yourself going through the cycles of defense back and forth while your blade is still kind of in. Remember, you can hold your sword like this, right, and do this, the normal guard. You can put it higher a little bit. You can listen to this. So your normal middle one would be and this kind of builds the habit as well of just walking. And the other reason why you want to do it, and you want to do it with the video sometimes, just to control yourself, make sure that what you do is you protect your center line. At any given moment. And in my case, I also tend to put in the cutting edge to outwards as I move. Reason for that is because if I'm expecting heat from that side, I don't want to block it with the flat side on the dull side, because doing that is weird and will not give you anything. If you're doing that, you're meeting with the cutting edge, and you block it properly. It's the right way to execute and stuff. So anyway, so these are just very simple four moves, kind of feel like dancing sometimes. Right? You can do it with the side steps. I was doing it with the crossing steps, all sorts of stuff. Just for fun. And then just build yourself into the planes. The 8's very good, once again, to kind of get the points right. Guarding points, the blocking points, whatever we call them. So the lower stance, as mentioned, is basically for you to retreat, gather stance, depth, gather strength, and just kind of be on guard but not being on guard, kind of just sliding through. It's not particularly visually pleasing one, if you like, right? But it's very helpful because you don't have to can relax a little bit, and also at any given moment, if you just escape, you can jump back into the middle one, or you have the ability to also do the feints. You can show the middle, or you can just go straight through it and execute the hit. So it's a bit more of the unknown, but it requires for you to actually have better control and kind of be aware of what you're doing, because looking from this into this is obviously longer time and more chance of you getting hit doing this from the middle. But then again, one can argue, right, if you do it straight up, then you're already there. So just be cognizant of this. And when you switch into stanzas, so there are a few ways you can do it. One way is do it with the front arm, right? The back one is controlling it. Other one to do it with the lower one, and the other one is to do it with two. So you'll be tempted to do this with just the front, but remember that at some moment you're starting to do this, and it's you're using it and bends out and does all sorts of weird and wonderful things to you. If you do it with the, so that's if you do it with the rear one. If you do it with the front one, you have a similar problem. So generally you want to change your stances through both hands a little bit. Right, so this is never off balance, it's more of the kind of used in there, just forward it a little bit, but it's never going this way. Anyway. Showed this one before. This one is from the lovely, lovely episode of The Highlander, which is always good to just remember. This is the one from the moments when Duncan teaches Richie how to handle the katanas. Just be mindful of this, right? Because while this one you can see in the, I'm pretty sure there's quite a few new posters circulating like this right now. It's okay stance. You can actually do it with just one hand, and just, especially if you're just starting, this is a very dangerous one because your lower regions are not particularly protected, but it's a very kind of picturesque one, right? So just be mindful that this is more for the preparation, and this one is basically the block for the cuts. But when you do those, you will be opening yourself here, so you need to always remember that these are combined with the side stepping from the attack. Otherwise, they're very picturesque, very good, and actually you can use them in real fights, in tournaments and stuff, and they're quite handy because they allow you to do this cut, they allow you to do this thrust, and you can kind of jump away and do all sorts of stuff. But you need to feel how it goes, so you know how to use that. Otherwise, you can just join them, and then they just become part of this movement, where you just kind of rotating things around yourself, and it's quite nice as well. So, your choice: the uppercuts, the full cuts, and the general flow. So, and again, legs don't have to move on every strike, but it's a good habit to build into exercise to do this, primarily because it teaches you how to coordinate front leg, rear leg, and if you have this piece, just as long as you're not stuck in it, you can break it. Right? If you're stuck in it, then yes, it becomes a problem. If you have the piece is very good while you're training for routine or for the stage fight or anything, because if you have your partner that just constantly goes with you like this, right, you will never build that whole trust thing, because they just go nuts, or you go nuts if it's you, right? And they're just trying to be fast about it. But if you do 1, 2, 3 piece, it gives you idea, and it gives them time to prepare, and things just don't expect to be ready and be prepared if you're going in the real tournament. But this is the whole other area of application, right? Right, so the other thing sometimes used, and you see it a lot with the rapiers and stuff on really. So the daggers, on the other hand, typically that would be the non-leading hand. Typically in the European martial arts, that would be primarily the shorter weapon. But you can use 2 short ones, or the reason why you want the shorter ones is just because the control is easier for the shorter weapons. But again, if you want to just play around, like I said, the guard. So this one is swiping, this one is striking, stopping, and all sorts of stuff. Just mess around, have fun with it, because if you do the same routine all the time, you're essentially getting stuck in that routine, right? So sometimes doing the wider movements, sometimes doing the dorky movements that kind of you normally wouldn't add even to the, well, be it normal fight or be it staged fight. Sometimes just adding them to the exercise part is very good, because it breaks out the familiarity of the movements. For example, this. Right, it's great, but very rarely in the real case scenario you'll start switching between the hands, because while you're switching between the hands, somebody just knock your blade out and it goes whee, and then you have nothing. You die. I tend to like to do these guys as well. I show them with the bigger sticks, right? When you just do the kind of building the tent around yourself. And the reason why I like them is because they are slightly different round protection on one hand, but they also very kind of picturesque, and they're building up the momentum for that sword to go this way. So I like to add them to my just basically swinging movement routine, the whole routine of stuff. What you also want to do is to just you start with your regular, go almost in the same direction routines, and it's becoming boring very fast. So what you want to do at some moments of those, you want to just switch to the 90 degrees, 180s, and 180s are actually very easy to go into, because if you have the habit of doing the round ones, round big movements, all you need to do is just rotate yourself instead of just standing there. Right, and then you have the full range of coverage. 90 degrees are a bit funkier because you need to go there and you kind of do it's the flow between the 90s are actually, or if you feel that 4 is getting you bored, the next progression typically is either 6 or 8 sides, depending how fancy you'd like to be. The 6 is more interesting because the angles are distributed. But the 8 is easier because you naturally have your 90 degrees cats, right? And so just all you do is just add in one extra step in the middle. Finished. And most of it will be not, don't try to go with the fancy switches. So at some moment you can start with just fillers. So you just do the, your straight cut, your straight cut, your straight cut, your straight cut, in every 8 directions. And you finish. And then once you're kind of go through this routine a few times, you can start interchanging now. For example, here you would go with a straight, here you would go with the upper straight, upper straight, 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 upper straight, and so on. Just don't fall down, because your head will start spinning if you're doing this. And also, one of the things that will happen as you progress with those is that you tend to do those on the same leg. So if you start doing this, right, I don't know, can you see legs? So you do your cut, then you kind of do your cut, and then all of a sudden you go, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, my legs are off. So what you want to do, you want to force yourself to do straight, step, step, strike, steps, and basically just move through the circle as well as you're striking to not have the legs twisted. And sometimes you will find yourself in the funky ones, and it's alright. You can reflect on it later and work out that do this, you know. Sometimes requires extra movements. The easy way to get yourself in the habit of switching legs is to tighten the shoelaces. So you don't fall down. And what you do, you kind of, actually, here's another good thing about the things. Fencing tends to, remember talking about the straight spine, so in the fencing, in martial arts generally, you want to keep your spine straight for a while. You can do this, yes, but you never do the hook or the hump or whatever you like, right? So you can actually just hold your walking like this. Get your legs on the shoulder length, for example, right? You can move one a little bit forward, and imagine yourself doing the cat, and then progressing 45 degrees, then another 90, and then you will have to start kind of rocking yourself, maybe moving legs a little bit, changing the forward and the rear leg. You don't have to stand on the same spot at all. But if you do this, as you progress through the circle, instead of just doing the cats, it will help you to figure out that balance in your spine, and the steps will actually become more kind of controlled, because you have to think. And this, by the way, stuff is the reason why you want your kids to do martial arts, why you want your kids to do the sword fencing and stuff. It helps to develop proper posture quite a bit and avoid later life problems with the displaced organs and stuff. I mean, I wish I started earlier with the more appropriate ones, not with just with the sable playing around, so I don't have the spine that I have right now. But even later in life, when I started doing it properly, it still helped me quite a bit. And as you go for the two hands and one hand rotations, and sometimes you just don't want to do two, one at all, you just want to go twos. Don't forget that your middle points for the cats are always nose gaze, and your hands are always actually working in the kind of unison with your body. They never working against it, they never working instead of it, but they just really just there to help you. And if you do use the heavier weaponry, heavier training sword, whatever, or just the weight bar, as I did some years ago, just make sure that as you do those guys, it is you who are in control. That's why you want to a little bit bend your legs as you're doing this, so your center of gravity is a little bit lower. So when you do a swing, it is you who are doing the swing and not just the sword that is flying, you kind of holding in the back of it, and it doesn't become the intelligent sword plus 5 catching for everything and using you as appendage. It's you controlling it, you the master of your blade, not the other way around. are multiple ways you can do the thrusts. When you're coming out from the lower kind of drag outs. Sounds right. Sounds wrong. Anyway, you do this, right? And then your bleed either goes straight up, or you can just do it like this a little bit. The reason why you sometimes do this instead of this is so you go through somebody's guard. Right, so this one is going from the lower level, but if somebody's standing like this, or with the shield, you want to go through. And look like a butterfly, is it? I guess. Thank you. And on the first, so yes, you can do it with one hand this way. So let's see, can you see it? On the first, you can do this way, right? As last resort, you can do it with this way. It gives you extra hand of reach. But if you do this, the outer one, just be mindful that it's very hard to control unless you have the very strong hands. So if you've done the thrust, if somebody catches you at this moment, they can snatch the blade out. So this is last resort, if you like. If you're trying to go for the kill, if you're trying to go for the final blow in a scene, this. Because otherwise the person does that, and kills you with your guns. You'll be very unhappy, and well, unless that was the goal of the scene. That's the whole other discussion. Right. Generally, you want to kind of stick with the regular thrusts. And remember, even if you're just practicing, try to be cognizant of not doing those too much. I mean, you want to do them to build the strength and the habit of going low and then going from there, right? But it requires a lot of build up in your legs, and your knees might not like you. One of the ways to prepare yourself for it is to do the, I'm trying to remember the name for it, and I can't because you know, Russian, Chinese, ages ago. So what you do, you kind of getting in the habit of doing this. Right, that's the forward ones, and they are kind of. But you realize soon that what it is virtually the same as if you do this. And if you've done the martial arts, right, at some moment in your life, this is actually what it is. Same exact muscles. You just need to kind of get yourself in the habit of doing this. That will build up the whole process, but it also will build up. So you don't just drop my leg, I just kind of slide it in and just move myself in. Because if you do this in a thrust, you don't just drop. What you do is your thrust movement is in fact, if you do it very slowly and cognizant, right, you're trying to get your leg out and then you kind of slide yourself in. The reason why you don't want to go with the full body is because if your opponent in a training or in the actual sparring stand like this, right, and you're trying to do full body, you end up with a person just doing this, and you're impeding yourself quite nicely. If you do controlled thrust, when your leg goes first and then you slide in, you have a chance to stop yourself. But again, be cognizant of your knees and of your legs and other stuff. And if you do it, make sure the ground is right, because doing the thrusts, that's why I don't like them actually, because doing them on the uneven ground, and you know, if you go higher or lower, it actually becomes very tedious, and especially if you're on the heavier side, or just big and fat like I am. Right, your body creates enough weight in there for you to just not wake yourself. But it's always good to kind of practice the wider stances a little bit. So the reason why you want to do it is because if you didn't do stretches, it will help you a little bit. What it also will do, so in the width in here would be, let's see, just wider, about 2 shoulder lengths or 1.5. Right, you kind of do this, and you get in. So this is another way to work out your knees a little bit. So your knees need to get used to all the extra stuff, things. But if you put in yourself lower, it also builds up the muscles in here and warms it up, and it also gives you kind of that flowy little bit movement. Getting up will be harder, but it's less painful to do that with the flow. Right? If you just do this, it's far less painful than standing there and hoping for the best in the static, because the static is actually very demanding and it's hard, and you risk hurting yourself a little bit more with the static pressure in there. So dynamic is always good. Let's see. So we've done this, we've done the flows, we talked about the sides, right? And again, you don't have to stick yourself to 4, 8, 6. You want to do 3, do 3. Imagine there are 3 opponents, and you work on all of them. And just, you know, go nuts. If it's harder for you to imagine, use some props. The bamboo sticks for the garden are actually fantastic use for this, or anything else. You can throw, I mean, the sticks are easier because you can see them better, but you can just put a few books to mark yourself directions and just go. And if you need reminders, you can always, you know, draw bits on a piece of paper and stick them on, or glue them on the sticks or put them on the ground, and it will help you to kind of remember what you plan to do here, or how you plan to kill them, or all that good stuff. But again, you know, the most important part is that, especially if you're doing it at home and for yourself, what you're trying to do, you're trying to get active, you're trying to do some exercise and some kind of basics of the techniques. So don't overthink it. You don't need the giant playground for this. And in fact, for example, here in Texas, very soon, people who don't go to gyms will not have the giant playground because it's getting hot again. So, you know, doing this when it's 90 or 100 outside, it's not fun. My phone last time overheated when it was what, 93? So, in one of the sessions. I'll just have to come up with the how to do it in a small room and such, or in different time of day. Get it early in the morning. And as you feel your body, because you do this and you still tense a little bit, and you'll feel it, so you just let yourself relax a little bit, stand normally, and just do the rotations and just feel the planes. So as you do the flow, I say the best thing you can do for yourself is to just kind of work out the flow that has all this stuff. Because I seen the guy, well, I used to teach with the guy who was big fan of the late North Africa sables, the big body ones, skinny ones, and his technique was primarily just going loosey-goosey, like this. And, I mean, he still had fun with it. It was alright. And people liked it. And sometimes it even looked good. Yes, I'm talking about Merlin. For those who are Russian speakers who still remember this game. If you do rotations, by the way, if you do this, please, right, they're horrible at it, I know this, but if you're starting to do rotations, find somebody who's done the ballet or any kind of dancing, because they will teach you that what you do when you rotate, you find kind of the spot you rotate as far as you can, then you go there, and then you just hit rotation. This will help you with the not getting dizzy. The problem with the swords, of course, is that if you rotate all the way through, then you don't see what's there, so not particularly great. So what you want to do to avoid getting all funny is to figure yourself the technique of either, because I've seen people doing this, I've seen people washing the end of the sword, I've seen people trying to kind of gaze out, and for some reason I find that everybody does it differently slightly, and one technique works for one person and doesn't. But if you do this constantly, right, you will get dizzy. So just be mindful that if you're getting dizzy, if you have funky balance and stuff, just kind of pace yourself and make sure that what you do, just kind of slowly move. And as you feel more comfortable, you just can build it up and do the magic, dances without falling down. Anyway, so that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Until you tomorrow, and stay safe out there. Quarantine is still on, and it's quite sunny outside. Go have a walk, go play with your kids. If you got kids, play with the dog if you got a dog, or just enjoy a little bit of sun. If you don't have sun, well, I'm sorry. Maybe sometime next time. Anyway, goodbye and thank you very much for watching.